from a layman, I feel like they stole from the right person, because it's the right person that's going to highlight this level of corruption.
Welcome back, trackies, to another one. T and myself who have been watching this Usain Bolt misappropriated funds, and we're talking about billions of Jamaican dollars here. You know, uh, we've been watching this whole situation unfold, and we've been undecided on whether we should comment about it at all. But this is a track and field platform, and Bolt is the biggest uh, star ever in track and field, and we ultimately decided that we would address it or give some insights, as things unfold, because this is still an
I
unfold.
don't really know if we can give insight,
Right.
but my
Yeah.
feelings, I suppose.
Right. So this situation is, well, I guess more so me, given that I do work in that
Yeah,
type of
maybe.
sector, right? And so, right, just some insight into what is going on with the funds, and this ever the whole everything. So one of the things that I thought, Trackies, I know this is going to sound very tangential, but I remember back in the day applying to Stocks and Securities Limited multiple times for a job and never getting one. So I am a bit bitter in my comments and very biased. So I just wanted to say that. However, the biggest thing that stands out to me when I step back and look at what is taking place is that the proper regulatory framework was not in place for something like this to happen. And not just to Usain Bolt, but to all those other individuals whose funds were misappropriated by this organization. And then in general, in Jamaica, in the wealth management sector, but particularly how grossly negligent Stocks and Securities Limited is in the framework that they have in place, the checks and balances that they need to have in place to ensure that your wealth advisor can't just dip into your funds, tap into your funds and, move it as they see fit. And one of the biggest things that stands out to me is separation of duties. I'm your wealth advisor. My job is to advise you on wealth. And yes, when you need a transfer or withdrawal and you're, such a huge private client, of course, you're not going to join the line or call the 800 number or whatever to go the long routes. So naturally, your wealth advisor should have some input in the process. Like, you should be able to call or email your wealth advisor. And one of the things that why I don't recommend texting as one of the methods, because who is on the other end? You can't necessarily verify that that is a person given the instructions. Well, let us say they accept email requests, for instance, or calling request, which for me is the safest way because you can verify the voice on the other end of the line. So if Usain Bolt calls in and says, hey, transfer
But
money.
what if I sound like him though?
No, but you're calling in on a recorded line and usually from a verified number, and that's a recorded line. So that is in place. There, at the back end of things, we can have, voice analysis persons prove if that's your voice. But if you're working closer with somebody, it's your fiduciary duty at least to know what they sound like and who they are. You should know your top clients, their voices and what they sound like. So for me, that would be the number one way, you want to transfer money or withdraw money from an account, stocks, whatever, you know what I mean. So yes, the money is not necessarily sitting down in cash, liquid cash, but whether you move in shares, stock, equity, whichever term you want to say, from one place to the next. Hear it from the horse's mouth. Okay, fine. Now if you accept email instruction, it should be coming from a verified, email account that is tied specifically to that account. So that is the person that is making, that is the one email, and any other email, that is coming from, because we're hearing a lot of stories that, there may have been some email requests here and there, then it should be verified. And finally, the most important thing, if I am your wealth advisor and I get this request from you, my private client that has your, billions of Jamaican dollars with me, my next step would be to go ahead and have my back office, the operations team, go ahead and execute that transfer. So I shouldn't be the one moving money around. And that independent back office needs to say, where is the supporting documentation to support this withdrawal? And now I need to present the email or the method through which this request was communicated. And so that is where personally I'm coming on hard on the organization. Just the not having the correct regulatory framework in place to ensure that the wealth advisor is who sit greedily, for want of a better word, sitting down there looking at all of this money, thinking about what they could do with all of this money, um, you know, just has access to easily beat the system and move the money. And I mean the fact that they were able to beat the system and move so much of the money and so much of other person's money shows me that there was definitely a breakdown. And so it goes beyond the thief. For me, this goes to the institution that you're trusting, to have your money. I saw JMB, they put out a press release to assure the public that their money is safe. And also but then there were there are other cases in Jamaica of other misappropriated funds. When you're working in an organization, you'll find a way if there is one little loophole. And if that's your thought process and that's what's on your mind, you will find a way. But what I'm saying is that the internal auditors, the external auditors, Financial Services Commission, the FSC, I believe, or something like that it's called. There's so many layers to ensuring that a consumer, an investor, that our money is safe with an institution. I heard recently in the Jamaican news that the head of the Financial Services Commission resigned. I'm not sure if it's as a result of this particular scandal, because for me the correct check, it goes all the way to the top, it goes all the way to the head. The checks and balances just were not in place to prevent this from happening.
It had
And one of
something
the
to do
things
with what
that,
you mentioned, the
right,
regulation. They weren't operating properly, and they knew, so that's why he
he
quit.
resigned.
Well, that's my opinion.
And then one of the things that we haven't been hearing from them, we have been hearing a lot of, one of the things that I have not been hearing from them, and this is what I want to hear. These are the steps we're taking to ensure that something like that does not happen again. This was the framework that we were working with. We have now recognized that there are loopholes, and we have now hired, Price Waterhouse Coopers. We have now hired these external experts. Whether they need actuaries, accountants, economists, tech persons, whoever needs to come in, a whole panel of persons, that needs to come in and review. And maybe they're working on something like that, needs to review what's currently in place and how they can actually adhere to standards. Because in my opinion, and this goes across all the other financial institutions in Jamaica and wealth management places that are missing huge sums of money, if any framework, because if any framework was being followed, this should not have happened. Billions of dollars don't disappear without anyone noticing. It takes the customer, the client, to realize that their money is missing, to raise an alarm. What is happening? I mean, this is given, I was reading recently that Stocks and Securities Limited is the second oldest investment house in Jamaica. But this is very much giving me patty shop vibes. And maybe, maybe that was why uh, 15 years ago, fresh out of college with my degree in economics and statistics with honors. Maybe that's why I was there. They didn't hire me. Maybe I missed out on entering that type of party shop vibe, and maybe greater things were
I think
in
it's
store
just corruption full
for
stop. Like
me.
they're
So
just corrupting. But
it's a
from a layman perspective, obviously I don't know the runnings of a financial institution. But from a layman perspective, I ask myself this question all the time since the story broke. If it wasn't bold, would we have heard about this? Would they have just brushed it under the rug like they do all the other persons that are robbed? I remember a few months ago there was also a story with another popular person in a financial institution robbing up some money, and I don't recall hearing whose money was stolen at that particular moment.
or if they
And
got back their money.
right, and you know what I mean, or if they got you don't hear anything. So, I, while this is completely wrong, at the same time, from a layman, I feel like they stole from the right person because it's the right person that's going to highlight this level of corruption. And yeah, as you did say, it's a big thing for me where it's not just SSL, as you said, the FSC, the head. He knew that they weren't operating properly, and I guess they're all, sitting on the bar together, sipping on some cocktails or something. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll give you some more months. I'll give you 6 months. I'll give you whatever, And for me and you, if we are operating something, they'll never give us a chance. They'll just lock us down immediately if something, goes wrong. But you find with these big shots or these rich people where them give them a blind and then they keep this kind of corruption thing rolling and everybody's getting a little touch or, what do they call it, greasing their palm or something along those lines. And yes, obviously it also internally where you have internal issues with your employees, and I mean from Bolt's perspective, his own internal people trying to maybe rob him up, allegedly, right? So I mean it's just points to corruption, and it's so weird because you would see these police officers would see say a random man walk into a store and just hide something out of the store. They would beat that man to death over something that's worth $500. And these government officials or higher people in hierarchy, they're not necessarily government. I don't really want to bash them, but these people that are sitting high up there that are stealing, and there's nothing. There's a little tap on the shoulder. Nothing. Nothing. How did the rich remain rich? Right, there's a lot of corruption in it, and from a layman like myself, I'm just looking at it and I'm glad. It's when they say what is done in the dark shall come to the light, I'm just watching it all come to light, and I'm like, finally, all of these people that are stealing, they look at the little poor man and say, oh no, you're the thief, you're the criminal, throw you in jail for however long or beat you to death possibly. And that's all she wrote, and they're able to sit on their thrones and keep looking down their noses at you and be like, you deserved it, while they're doing much worse. It's time. And I, like you said, what are they doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And
Right.
I feel like it's the right person because they can't let it slide. They're going, everybody's watching them. Jamaica is watching them. Jamaica is holding them accountable. And by Jamaica, I mean the layman is holding them accountable. We want to see what you're going to do to fix this. Hopefully, I mean, based on rules as it relates to getting back money, it's not looking so good, but hopefully things work out for you, same. But Jamaica is just a corrupted country. Like I sit down all the time and I think, are we gonna end up like Haiti? Or we're not that far off. We literally sitting down here thinking that we're good, we're not good. There's so much corruption, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Everywhere I turn, there's corruption. Even recently with my orthodontic clinic, I won't go into giving you guys the name, but the employees, they were robbing like crazy and robbed millions from this woman, including me. I almost had my service canceled because of this whole robbery thing, and I didn't even know. I'm so trusting. It's ridiculous because, and it's in speaking with you, you let me know, Tom, that this is a possible way where people try to let you give them physical cash so that they can rob you. But I'm so trusting and not expecting this type of thing to happen, where if you say to me, okay, the machine isn't working, give me cash, I'm not thinking, I'm not side eyeing thinking something is up, but I should have been side eyeing because, and for a lot of people, they may not think it's a lot of money, but for me, I'm sorry, I work hard for my coins, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm like, they just literally try to swipe that 500 US like it was nobody's business, and I'm like, are you serious? And then the funny thing about it is that they use this slick way of not even giving a receipt, where they're like, "Oh, we'll email you the receipt, child, when you go anywhere." When you go anywhere, please collect on your receipt. Don't worry that you're on the person. Don't think about, oh, you know this person long time. Them good, they seem trustworthy. Collect everything because you never know. And they were so slick with it that I was oblivious to the whole thing until I realized that I wasn't being called in to get my appointment. And that's where I started to wonder to myself, is everything okay? And even in calling and talking to the person, they're like, yeah, man, you're good. We're just restructuring and everything is fine. Child, listen.
Right. So T to
Corrupt,
touch on
everybody is corrupted. Just
right.
approach people looking at them like this. Well, don't let them see, but in the back of your head, do it like this.
But right. So T to touch on your point about not trusting anyone. I want to take this from the Usain Bolt perspective. So a lot is being said about, who in his organization possibly could have assisted in the misappropriation of these funds. And since it's still being investigated, and a lot of it is beyond speculation at this point, but it's still being investigated. So we're not gonna name drop anybody right now. But what I will say from his perspective, from Usain Bolt, this is where being too trusting comes into play. So you have your management team,
His
your set of
circle.
persons, your set of people that do things for you. So let us say you have a 5 or 10 or 15 man management team. This person does that. No, somebody with your resources and your wealth, hire. This brings me back to the external auditors. Hire external accountants at the end of every year to balance your books mid-year, quarterly. Outsource it externally. They have nothing to benefit from it. They're just coming to do their jobs. They're disinterested third parties. That way, you're checking and balancing your own people that you have around you, because sometimes your own people will pull you down, and the
Yeah.
persons that you trust will be the ones that let you down. So for him, I hope, I was reading online that his net worth is 90 million US dollars. I don't know how much billions and billions and billions of dollars that is in Jamaica, but quite a few. So my takeaway from this is, this is a dent, in his net worth. Definitely not nothing to
It
sink
is.
ship.
Because it takes it down to
Right,
80 or below
right.
80.
Exactly,
Crazy.
but nothing to sink the ship. So hopefully, as he continues to, sail the ocean, he himself implements better checks and balances when it relates to, the ability of his, what's their, the information that they're exposed to. Do they need to know every single thing? Who knows everything? And then how can you prevent that person who knows all of your holdings, your money movements? How can you prevent that person from tapping into accessing your money and actually just moving it away from underneath you. So that, so checks and balances on both ends. Him to protect himself, he did nothing wrong. He would, but at the same time, now he needs to know what more he can do for himself. You're saying both, that is to protect himself. And then as it relates to the situation happening at SSL, Jamaica on the whole, the governing of these financial institutions, it definitely needs to be tightened up seriously.
It's not just financial institutions, and that's why I kept saying, like, it's like we're walking into a melting pot of corruption and you don't even know. I'm hearing stories, and I'm in Manchester, so stories of schools, the bursaries office being, you hear they're short hundreds of thousands, and this and that, and every turn at a supermarket around there is being robbed up, and it's like, okay, there's something needs, there's like this culture of corruption, and if it doesn't stop, and it starts from the top. People are thinking it's a small man alone. The small man is learning from the bigger heads, right? They're just doing it on a smaller scale, obviously, but like, it starts from the top. The corruption starts from the top, and it needs to be overhauled and gotten rid of. Our Jamaica is going to end up in the problems that where I see Haiti facing right now. So they better watch themselves.
All right, so track is in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on this unfolding. I don't want to call
Unfortunate
it a
situation.
misfortune that has befallen Usain Bolt. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are some of the things that Jamaica can do, this SSL can do, Bolt himself can do to
Honestly,
prevent
oh,
something like this from happening again to himself, and of course to other, everybody. Like, what can be done to prevent something like this from happening again? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. This is a very somber topic.
it is.
So sad. So let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm Tam.
And I'm T.
We'll catch you in another one.